Hello and welcome back to this lesson. Here we're going to learn what is a container. And for that I will just go and I will open up a paint because I want you to see some things that I'm going to draw. So okay, first the question is what is a container? And let's get to the basics and let me draw here. Okay, this is ugly. Let me draw an operating system here. Here we have an operating system, right? You all know what an operating system is. It could be Linux or Mac OS or Windows or whatever. The thing is that we're going to be using Linux because most of containers these days are running in Linux. So here we have an OS which is Linux, right? And in this operating system we have a bunch of processes because basically that's the nature of an operating system, to run processes. So inside of this operating system we have some processes that are running here. Say, I don't know, SSH process, user interface processes, web server processes, all of the processes that you need, all of the processes that you want. So now the question is, what is a container? And well, as the word tells you, a container is nothing else but a process which is isolated in something called a namespace. So say that I want to isolate this process from all of these which are in the operating system, and I want to isolate this and I want to control the resources that this container may use. Or I want to have this separated from all of this and I don't want any kind of communication from this process to these other processes. So this is like, I'm just putting this container in a sandbox, and a sandbox is like just the notion of isolation. Say that I'm isolating this process in a container. So basically I have a container which isolates the process that is running from the other processes. So here we have two important concepts. One for container is, let me draw two lines. So one concept is a namespace, and a namespace is basically the ID or the name of the process of this container. So this will be started in a sandbox, which is a namespace, and that will be like the ID of the process. And secondly, we will have something which is called C groups. And using C groups allows you to limit the CPU, the memory, and a lot of resources, so you can limit your container to do only the things that you want it to do, right? So basically this is the most fundamental concept or notion of what a container is. And a container is nothing else but a process inside of a sandbox, which is called a container. A container contains a process which runs in a namespace and has C groups to control it. And well, I said that there is only one process here, but typically in Docker you only run one process per container. But of course, if you wanted, you could just go ahead and inside of this container you could create, or you could spin up another process which will live with this process, and these processes will be able to talk to each other because they are in the same container, they are sharing the same namespace, and they are sharing these C groups here. So basically this is, as I told you, the most fundamental notion of a container. It's a container, a sandbox which contains typically one process, it could be more than one, and this inherits a namespace and C groups to control what the container can do. So this is it for this video. I hope that you have now a clearer understanding of what a container is. I'll see you in the next lesson.